In 1879, a devout Christian author published an argument against God so devastating that for 150 years, philosophers and theologians have struggled to find a logical response. Fyodor Dostoevsky set this debate in a dingy Russian tavern. Two brothers face each other across a table: Ivan, a cold rationalist, and Alyosha, a novice monk who fears his brother's intellect. Ivan views the world through what he calls the Euclidean mind, a human intellect bound strictly to the three-dimensional laws of cause and effect. Because he cannot see beyond this earthly logic, Ivan refuses to accept the promise of a future divine harmony if the price of that harmony is the physical pain he sees every day. Ivan accepts that God exists, but he rejects God's world. He builds a moral case against the universe using only the undeniable, observable facts of human suffering. To make his case unanswerable, Ivan focuses entirely on children. Unlike adults, children have not eaten the apple. They are innocent of sin and cannot deserve the horrors they endure. Ivan presents his first piece of evidence: a wealthy general who orders his hunting hounds to tear an 8-year-old boy to pieces in front of the child's mother. Dostoevsky didn't invent this. He found it in a journal published by the radical Alexander Herzen, who used real newspaper reports to document the brutality of the Russian aristocracy. He then describes parents who lock their 5-year-old daughter in a freezing outhouse all night, leaving her to beat her breast in the dark because she could not control her bladder in her sleep. Ivan poses a choice. Imagine you are the architect of a universe of absolute, eternal peace. But to complete the project, you must torture just one tiny creature, that girl in the outhouse, and build the foundation of human happiness on her tears. Would you consent to those conditions? Alyosha, the monk, whispers his refusal. In doing so, he validates Ivan's conclusion. The price of admission to this world is too high, and the only moral choice is to return the ticket to God. If human logic cannot justify the price of creation, then the universe itself is an act of injustice that demands rebellion. Ivan illustrates this rebellion through a prose poem set in 16th-century Seville, at the height of the Spanish Inquisition. The day after 100 heretics are burned in a public auto-da-fe, Christ silently returns to earth. He heals the sick and raises a child from the dead, only to be immediately arrested by a 90-year-old Grand Inquisitor. Alone in a dungeon, the Inquisitor tells Christ that his gift of freedom was a mistake. He argues that free will is a terrifying burden that humanity was never meant to carry. To the Inquisitor, freedom is the very mechanism that allows the cruelty Ivan documented. By leaving humans free to choose, Christ condemned them to a world of suffering. The Inquisitor explains that the Church has corrected this error by accepting the 3 temptations Christ rejected in the desert: turning stones to bread, performing miraculous feats, and taking earthly power. Freedom is traded for bread. Terrified of choice, people surrender autonomy for security. Second, miracle addresses the anguished conscience, replacing doubt with magical dogma. Finally, authority locks individuals into a rigid grid, an ant-heap where obedience replaces the discord of freedom. The Inquisitor has used flawless logic to justify tyranny. Christ responds by rising in the silence and kissing the old man on his bloodless lips. This leaves the audience with a choice that logic cannot solve: the agonizing responsibility of freedom or the comfortable slavery of the Inquisitor's world. Back in the tavern, Alyosha responds to Ivan's argument just as Christ did in the poem. He leans forward and kisses his brother on the lips. Dostoevsky offers his answer through the teachings of elder Zosima. Zosima preaches active love, the harsh, exhausting labor of caring for the physical people right in front of you. This is a work of the will, requiring constant effort rather than sentimental feelings. Zosima teaches that you cannot argue your way out of the problem of evil. The only response is to take personal, active responsibility for the sins of everyone else, sharing the burden of the world's pain. But Dostoevsky denies his readers an easy miracle. When Zosima dies, his body does not remain fresh as the monks expected. Instead, it rapidly decays and smells of corruption. By humiliating his own holy man, Dostoevsky proves his point. True faith must be chosen in the dark, without the miracles the Inquisitor uses to force belief. Ivan's logic left a permanent mark on history. Friedrich Nietzsche saw in it the inevitable death of God, and the arrival of modern nihilism. Camus viewed Ivan as the metaphysical rebel, whose ideas provided the psychological blueprint for 20th century totalitarianism, where a hunger for justice justified state terror. Writers like D.H. Lawrence even argued that the Grand Inquisitor was right, that Christ was a dangerous idealist, and only a benevolent tyrant can truly protect the weak. In a world of innocent suffering, the paradox remains. We can trade our terrifying freedom for the Grand Inquisitor's comfortable lives, or we can bear the weight of that freedom and respond with active love. Which do we choose?